Oh, yeah. Hello and welcome everybody to the Crypto Mining Show, your one-stop shop for all cryptocurrency news from the perspective of a cryptocurrency miner. And welcome to the Friday evening stream. Yes, we are not doing it every Monday through Thursday anymore. We are doing it every Friday. And the times do fluctuate. Currently, the earliest or the latest the show will ever be is 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. And that's just due to, well, you know, bear market things and all of that. I'm sure everybody else here is in similar situations, taking on more day jobs, more side jobs, and whatever you can do to make ends meet while the recession or impending recession is upon us and so on. And that being said, though, if you are hanging out in the cryptocurrency markets today, everything's looking very, very green with Bitcoin going up and above 22,000. Remember, last week we said due to the cost to mint a Bitcoin and the fact that the lenders have no way to actually get their money back out of the mining rigs that they are confiscating from, of course, the Bitcoin miners, they are now basically resolving themselves to mining themselves. And that means that they are less likely to sell the Bitcoin for less than they mined it for, because that is how that goes. As opposed to that, where the miners owed way more on the cryptocurrency than they should have, right? They were forced to sell because of the payments they had to make at lower prices. So as more miners shut down and as more basically merge and go through acquisitions and go bankrupt, etc., we get closer to the true price of Bitcoin. At least that's what I am assuming is happening here. If you guys have a better idea, let me know. The reason I also say this is, of course, we don't have a great news cycle for cryptocurrency outside of the markets being green right now, right? We have crazy stuff going on from Congress, basically 1 in 3 members of Congress getting cash from crypto exchange boss at FTX, of course, SBF, donating essentially to the U.S. politicians to influence their decisions. We have reports of other craziness, like the new FTX chief saying that the crypto exchange is going to restart, oddly enough. And we also have crypto media outlet CoinDesk going for sale potentially here. So some crazy stuff for real. For real. And Bitcoin miner 1 terahash, sent almost all of its Bitcoin to Binance, which it's quite a bit of Bitcoin. And if a miner is sending that amount to an exchange, that typically means an impending dump. So will we see kind of a minor correction back down as this miner liquidates and then it'll come back up? We shall see. I would presume we do stick around that $18,000 to $23,000 range, probably for the foreseeable future. Of course, this isn't financial advice. This is just me speaking from previous experience of having cycles and the way they function, right? We won't see any significant boost in the price of cryptocurrency until, we see the next halving of Bitcoin. At least that's what I would presume. Let's get into all of this and more right after a word from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is CoinLedger. CoinLedger understands that crypto tax reporting can be difficult and is here to help. CoinLedger integrates with popular crypto applications and exchanges like Coinbase and MetaMask. Seamlessly import your CoinLedger tax reports into TurboTax and feel at ease. For a limited time, check the description on this video for a chance to win a free CoinLedger tax report. Get started for free today at coinledger.io by following the links in the description. Use promo code SONOFATECH for 10% off. And welcome back, everybody, and thanks for stopping in. So we did have a slight correction to what Core Scientific said, which is $16.8 thousand was the bottom for Bitcoin profitability. However, I would say they went bankrupt, so I don't think they know shit. If their target was 23K, maybe they still would be functioning without a bailout from BlackRock. Let's go ahead and talk about crypto media outlet CoinDesk taps bankers for potential sale. Company has received numerous inbound indications of interest, CEO Kevin Worth says. Oh no, we're going to have to go ahead and I forgot that they locked this down. And I'm going to have to go find the article somewhere else. I do have this pulled up somewhere else. Let me go find it real quick. I got the wrong link, I suppose, when I was pulling it up after the deal. So I think we got one here from TipRanks. Yeah, crypto media outlet CoinDesk mulls potential sale. Now, Charles Hoskinson went live on YouTube. That's how I found out about this earlier today, actually announcing that he is considering the purchase of CoinDesk, right? So there is that to take into consideration, which would be extremely interesting because he does, carry a lot of weight within the altcoin industry, and it's or the altcoin space, I suppose. I mean, to the point to where if he gifts, the devs of a cryptocurrency a Twitter account from the devs or from another cryptocurrency, nobody really bats an eye. It's kind of odd there. And the influence that he has, I think he made a couple good points. He said, if anything is talked good about Cardano on CoinDesk, then people would put that into question. And then even if people talked negatively about Cardano in CoinDesk, they would take that, as a biased opinion. So I guess the question really is, at the end of the day, is it really possible for somebody that participates within the industry on a developer level or a founder level for a cryptocurrency should they be able to own a media outlet, right? And I mean, at the same time, there hasn't been much transparency with CoinDesk in the first place, right? The reason why it's going bankrupt is because, or why its potential sale is because it is under basically groups of people, or managed by groups of people that are going bankrupt, right? So CoinDesk Incorporated, a crypto-focused media company, has engaged investment bankers at Lazard Limited to evaluate options, including a partial or full sale, the Wall Street Journal reported. CoinDesk is exploring a potential sale due to the worsening crisis at its parent company, Barry Silbert's digital currency group. Over the last few months, we have received numerous inbound indications of interest in CoinDesk, said CoinDesk CEO Kevin Worth. Meanwhile, CoinDesk's sister company, Genesis Global Capital, might file for bankruptcy as early as this week, Bloomberg reported. DCG's other entities, including crypto asset manager Grayscale Investments and Bitcoin miner Foundry, are also under financial pressure. DCG acquired CoinDesk in 2016 for $500,000. The news outlet grew rapidly due to the growing interest in crypto and reportedly generated a revenue of $50 million in 2022. Sources told Wall Street Journal that DCG had received several unsolicited offers for more than $200 million in the past few months for CoinDesk. It is interesting to note that CoinDesk was the first to report the irregularities in the financials of both crypto exchange FTX and its sister trading firm Alameda Research. The report triggered the eventual collapse of FTX and caused panic in the crypto market at a time when sentiment was already weak due to rising interest rates and macro pressures. Amid all this turmoil, several cryptocurrencies and crypto-backed stocks fell significantly. Bitcoin shed over 50% of its value over the past year. Now, like I said, this brings up a ton of different questions, right? Like, in news media already, mainstream media, we are aware of, dealings within mainstream media and different political figures and so on that clearly influence the way different media outlets report, right? We know that on like the mass scale. We know that there's also things like investments from entities that are, whether they be, McDonald's or Pfizer, it doesn't really matter. It is going to influence, of course, the way the news approaches that subject if they are paying for those, for those advertisements. And that it does bring into question, a majority of the cryptocurrency outlets, news outlets, as well as cryptocurrency influencers, right? We've talked about this time and time again. We warned about it. I warned about it during the bull market and the bull run because I'm fully aware of what kind of offers are sent out to influencers. And I'm sure the same goes for cryptocurrency news outlets as well, right? And one of the things that I thought Charles Hoskinson brought up that was interesting was having a whole section of CoinDesk that would allow for basically PR releases from coins where they could basically announce whatever's going on their network, but it would be clear that it was coming from those coins. I don't know if he would expect CoinDesk to receive any sort of monetary payback in return for having this specific section, but that would be interesting to see. It would also take quite a lot of his net worth, which also would be along the lines of like, if I was him, I would look at like how that impacted Musk negatively and probably say maybe it's not the best idea to do this. That being said, 50 million in revenue for 2022 sounds good, but you got to ride out the bear market and then you got to come out swinging hard in the next run to make up that 200 million, right? It's not like it's going to make 50 million in revenue for 2023. It's just more than likely not going to happen given the current circumstances and the current outlook on cryptocurrency and the current, of course, like Google trends surrounding cryptocurrency. I mean, the fact of the matter is that a majority of the reduction in ad revenue has come directly because of the downfall of cryptocurrency on platforms like YouTube, right? Where we saw essentially, like me personally, something, something around an 80% reduction in ad revenue from YouTube just within the past quarter, right? So the last quarter of 2022, an 80% reduction, right? I mean, to the point to where it is nearly, not nearly, it is completely impossible to actually make a living off of it. But then you compound that with the fact of like the cryptocurrency markets being bad and so on and so forth, and you don't see a light at the end of the tunnel. It doesn't look like it will return anytime soon. So a $200 million investment in a platform, a news outlet that already has, I think, kind of a little bit of a negative stigma surrounding it, right? Was also related to essentially a collapse, a bankruptcy with GGC or Genesis Global Capital. And you have to wonder if it's really worth the purchase. And I would posture no. I think it probably goes to worth a lot less than they're currently saying, right? That being said, let's talk about more fun, interesting topics with the new FTX chief saying crypto exchange could restart. Now, there has been here recently an increase in price of the FTX token. And now, according to the Wall Street Journal, in his first public interview since taking over the failed cryptocurrency exchange, John J. Ray III said that he is open to the idea of rebooting operations. And once again, we are going to have to research this because, of course, Wall Street Journal is going to block us because that is how they function as well. But we'll get up another option here. Rooters will probably be good. That'll get us everything we need out of this, I think. Let me make sure we have the full article here. Yeah, that looks good to me. So, bankrupt crypto exchange FTX is looking into the possibility of reviving its business, Chief Executive Officer John Ray told the Wall Street Journal on Thursday. Ray, who took over the reins in November, has set up a task force to explore restarting FTX.com, the company's main international exchange, he said in an interview with the Wall Street Journal. The CEO also told the Journal that he would look into whether reviving FTX's international exchange would recover more value for the company's customers than his team could get from simply liquidating assets or selling the platform. FTX's native token FTT surged nearly 30% after the report. So if you're wondering what the surge was for it, of course it was this report. He says, quote, "I'm glad Mr. Ray is finally paying lip service to turning the exchange back on after months of squashing such efforts," end quote. FTX founder and former CEO Sam Bankman-Fried said in a tweet. Continues to say, I'm waiting for him to finally admit FTX US is solvent and give customers their money back, Bankman-Fried added. A legal representative for FTX did not immediately respond to Reuters' request for a comment. Bankman-Fried has been accused of stealing billions of dollars from the exchange's customers to pay debts incurred by his crypto-focused hedge fund, Alameda Research. He has pleaded not guilty to fraud charges. The future customer funds, however, remains unclear. Earlier this week, FTX said in a report to creditors that hackers stole about $415 million in crypto from its international and U.S. exchanges since its bankruptcy in November. I gotta throw that tinfoil hat on like I did with NiceHash. When are people going to start getting caught and be held accountable for hacking their own shit? Like it's like almost to the point to where it's painfully obvious. And usually the guy like either goes down or disappears completely, right? Or steps down from the company, best case, like you get with like the takeover ownership on NiceHash, right? And it's like, well, it's under new ownership, so just don't worry about what happened in the past. Ignore it and trust us. And like, that just feels like what's going to happen with FTX now, right? They're going to stand it back up. They're going to say, well, it was that one guy, ignore it. Also, all those funds were stolen. So oopsies, we can't pay it back. Sorry. The customers will get no recourse And at the same time, the company will just re-stand up and suffer zero consequences. This happens time and time again with centralized platforms. And if you are principal based in crypto, it should be completely obvious that anything that is centralized succumbs to this type of behavior, because people naturally end up in a position where even if they're not fully corrupt or have the best of intentions in the first place, you still have the people problem. And that's what we talk about in crypto a lot. Like, that applies to coins as well. You can have the best intentioned crypto project, but the fact of the matter is that it always has the human problem. And if we ignore that fact, then we put ourselves into positions that are compromised, right? Especially when it comes to finances, that means that you put yourself in a compromised position financially, because we all have that tendency to kind of ignore the principles, right? It goes back to, a great book that I've been rereading now is like the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I think it helps a lot in cryptocurrency, because you can start to write down your mission statement within crypto. You can start to write down, what your principles are, what you should be working on within it. And it's definitely helped me a lot as well recently as we go through the bear market. So I highly recommend it. We do have some bullish news. Bullish, my friends. Texas Work Group on Blockchain Matters report. Now, to be clear, this is proposed. This isn't passed or anything like that. It is a House Bill 1576. Or wait, hold on. This was passed. There we go. Passed by the 87th Texas legislature is what it says now. I don't know if we'll have to check the status on this. When I had originally seen it, I wasn't aware of that, but this examines the current blockchain industry, reviews the state's current workforce and required growth. I don't think any of these policies are applied yet. Don't quote me on that. I do want to point out we did do a short on this, and I will be doing some more research on this later. But there are some very, very, very bullish moves coming from the state of Texas here. They're actually completely counteractive to Biden's digital currency policy, which is going to be interesting. I have talked about this in the past on the Rumble channel, which I highly recommend. After the show, we'll talk about this more in more depth, but there does appear to be, related around crypto, a pretty strong stance of like Texas, right, versus like New York, or really at this point the federal government. And by nature, there is partisanship starting to flow through that, right? Where you have this kind of support for cryptocurrency, this strong support for cryptocurrency coming from Republicans, especially when it pertains to mining and so on, and kind of a huge pushback, mostly probably due to specifically the environmental push is what I would assume. I'd like to hear your thoughts and opinions, of course, in the comment section, as well as the live chat, and we can talk in more depth and more freely over on Rumble later. But I am starting to draw these correlations that do seem to be somewhat related, right? And we need to pay attention to that as we move forward. And yes, the channel is, because we do talk about these topics, being suppressed on YouTube. When I looked at essentially the current traffic on YouTube, it is all external, or a majority of it is external. It has never been a majority external in the past. So I would appreciate any sharing you can do for this if you find it helpful. Let's get back into this though. There are, like I said, some very bullish moves going on here. Commercial contracts. The legislature should consider and enact proposed 2022 amendments to the Uniform Commercial Code dealing with technology changes, including new Article 12 and amendments to Article 9. These enactments will give full legal recognition to digital assets as a type of personal property, and will protect such traditional property rights as the right to own free and clear of conflicting property claims, the right to assign as collateral for obligations, and the right to sell. I mean, come on, if that ain't bullish for Texas, man. It is amazing, dude. Now, To avoid creating ambiguity in the emerging blockchain marketplace in Texas, the legislature should not supplement to or attempt to clarify Texas's earlier enactment of the Uniform Electronic Transaction Act, which gives full legal recognition to electronic records, electronic signatures, and the use of automation to complete transactions electronically. Digital identity. Texas should incentivize technology companies whose revenue model does not depend on the monetization of personal data or whose revenue model actively precludes such data monetization to headquarter in Texas. The legislature should further study the best incentivization model to achieve this purpose. The work group encourages the legislature to adopt a resolution affirming the importance of exploring a framework for self-sovereign identity, SSI, that would allow individuals to custody data about themselves and decide when, how, and with whom the data is shared. Now, obviously, this is extremely important, and this is something that we were working on previously with a company called Tiki. I'm going to be revisiting with them, but the individual's right to own their data, I think, is paramount and has been something that's been ignored in government policy for quite some time. So I really like seeing this, and the implications as it surrounds blockchain could be pretty significant with, of course, things like smart contracts and so on. And so I think that it makes sense that that would be a part of this in particular, right? This bill in particular. The work group encourages the legislature to adopt a resolution affirming the right of Texas citizens to possess cryptocurrency on their own account, and to not be prohibited from the use of what is commonly, if inaptly, referred to as self-hosted wallets. Yes! 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 Thank you! Yes. Yes. So good. They obviously had some pretty hefty, like, hardcore fundamental Bitcoin maxis advising on this, right? But this is important because when we talk about the way that they will move forward with essentially regulating cryptocurrency here, and what we've seen, with different companies pulling out of, like Japan with like Coinbase and so on like that, is that a lot of the countries and nation states that are moving into a central bank digital currency will possibly let you still continue to trade, but they will start removing the possibility of you hosting it yourself. And the reason for that is because they want to track it in and out at all times, right? And if you allow for self-hosting, you allow for basically the ability for somebody to trade in what is the equivalent of cash, right? And if you trade in the equivalent of cash, it is harder to track, and therefore it's harder to tax, among other things. And more than likely, of course, what the argument would be to violate your rights to basically transact without the interference of a government or a bank will be out of the concern of safety. The problem is that you end up, of course, introducing a lot of regulation that does not necessarily respect the rights of the individual or their financial autonomy. And so when we get into what states on an individual level can do, this is along the right lines, right? This isn't, to me, dissimilar from the ability for a state to choose whether or not marijuana is legal, right? This is on the same kind of docket as that would be. And states' rights are very important and should not be violated, in my humble opinion. And it allows for people to move freely between the states into areas where they may be more aligned politically, right? Or with the principles that they decide to live by. So if you are, more along the lines of a Bitcoin maxi or a fundamental cryptocurrency participant that prefers, the ideals of like not your keys, not your crypto, and being able to transact peer to peer without the interference of a government or a bank, then maybe Texas is where you want to be. This is pretty awesome. Also, DJ Mines Raid, thank you, good sir. Make sure you guys go subscribe to DJ Mines over on YouTube. A bad aim mofo. Everybody that is coming in, make sure you pay attention to, of course, what we're talking about today, which is the Texas Work Group on Blockchain Matters report. And this report obviously is giving suggestions to changes to Texas law. The one that we were just talking about is the right for a citizen of Texas to own on their own account right here. Own and possess cryptocurrency on their own account. It shall not be prohibited from use. And the self-hosted wallets shall not be prohibited from use, right? So this is pretty awesome, dude. And thank you so much once again from DJ Mines. I'm sure he's excited about this as well. So DAOs, this one's interesting. So DAOs are getting a part in this. They're getting talked about, and I think this is probably the first time that we've seen anybody in government talk about decentralized autonomous organizations, at least in an official outlet like this. So this is interesting. The legislature should clarify business enterprise law to ensure decentralized autonomous organizations enjoy a full range of business entity formation options and are not limited to a single option. In other words, Texas should not create, for example, a specialized version of the LLC, meaning DAOs are going to be, basically, you will be able to file as whatever form of current options there are for your DAO. So you want to have a limited, an S corp under a limited liability corporate or company like an LLC, go for it. The legislature should consider amending the business organizations code to clarify that a company agreement of a limited liability company is not unenforceable merely because part or all of the agreement is written in computer code. That's really interesting as well. So it will say that the company agreement, so to clarify that a company agreement of limited liability company is not unenforceable merely because. So you'll be able to enforce it even though it's only written in computer code. The legislature should consider amending business organization code to clarify that another suitable electronic communication system may include an electronic data system alone or in combination with the other technologies listed in that section for the purposes of holding meetings and voting. So now you can essentially go to the point of being able to hold board meetings and votes and all of that sort of stuff completely purely within a DAO, and it will be recognized under Texas law, or at least that's how I understand it, which is pretty bullish, I think, for DAOs in general in Texas. This is pretty cool. Now, education. Texas should create a more robust privacy protections for student data, clear disclosures of the practices of data collectors and processors, and a reasonable range of opt-out rights, including prioritizing student and parent ownership of data. In order to ensure maximum privacy of student data and ensure the prioritization of student and parent ownership of said data, Texas should encourage education technology providers to use open technology standards for student records. It's just, I feel like everything in here is like a libertarian's dream come true. It's like, the job of the government is being done, which is to provide, basically to protect the rights of the individual, the job of the government to, obviously protect the rights, of the individual and uphold those rights. And that's it. While at the same time, not infringing on their rights to hold or transact with cryptocurrency. It gets even better too. Texas should create a severance tax abatement for natural gas that was once flared but is now being consumed on site. Texas should incentivize controllable loads like Bitcoin mining by lessening the tax burden on the purchase of electricity when it is used to power a Bitcoin mine or other large flexible load that participates in ancillary services with ERCOT, essentially. So we recommend this tax incentive be given under the condition that a large flexible load, like a Bitcoin miner, participates in a new load category within ERCOT, called the large flexible load category, or they voluntarily agree to curtail their power usage anytime physical responsiveness capacity, PRC, dips to 3,000 megawatts PRC. Now, obviously, like a farm like mine's not going to be big enough to capitalize on something like that. But I still think that giving the proper tax incentives to encourage the type of behavior that you want is a pretty smart move. All right. So, here's fun stuff. Finance. Texas should institute 2-year retail sales tax holiday for direct cryptocurrency point of sale payments for products and services subject to reasonable value cap. This is actually quite massive for adoption within Texas, because what this means is potentially, right? You have businesses that will adopt it to avoid sales tax for the next 2 years. I mean, obviously, there will be some sort of reasonable value cap, but let's say you're a small coffee shop and you just want to be able to start a new payment system and adopt something like cryptocurrency for payment. There's that. Another thing that's really interesting when we start talking about, the FPGA sales that I'm talking about coming up with here shortly, is there is potential for us to be able to spin up a cryptocurrency payment system for those FPGAs and not have to collect tax to the same extent, which would give us a chance to actually get the systems in place and understand them without having to worry about another burden on top of it. So this is really cool for adoption, I think. And I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how this pans out. The legislature should consider codifying established cryptocurrencies with a large market cap such as Bitcoin as an unauthorized investment for the state of Texas. Pretty cool. And then Texas should take steps necessary to make clear to the public that under existing law, operating a Lightning Network node does not make an entity or individual a money service business in Texas. This should be accomplished either by an appropriate Texas regulator issuing a public statement or by enacting legislation. Yes, thank you. This was a big one that obviously was going to be a problem for some time, where they were wanting to basically tell everybody that, just for running a node, you were a money service business, which is ridiculous. You're running you're running the network or a peer-to-peer network. You're not actually taking any profit off of it. That's a huge one as well. The legislature should consider appropriate consumer protection related to different cryptocurrency lending models. The legislature should coordinate with the Texas congressional delegation to ensure that regulation at the federal level similarly differentiates between the risk profiles of the different lending models currently offered. Texas should create a statutory definition of a fully US dollar-backed audited stablecoin that has the status of money for all purposes, including but not limited to for permissible investments under the Texas Money Services Act. Now, this one could go the wrong direction. It's really interesting, though, because it's basically a stablecoin. They're not saying like a central bank digital currency for the state of Texas. They're saying a state of Texas backed stablecoin, which could be, pretty amazing, really, at the end of the day. I'm kind of very interested in seeing what that is. It does say the work group calls attention to potential dangers of the creation of a retail central bank digital currency. So they're like, do a stablecoin that's audited and backed, but don't do a central bank digital currency. A CBDC that involves a direct relationship between the Federal Reserve and consumers in the United States, and encourages the legislature to coordinate with the Texas congressional delegation to oppose such attempts. Dude. Yes. We have a state that's against central bank digital currencies. I'm glad I live here. I gotta be honest. Government. The legislature should direct state agencies with subject matter expertise to develop best practices or guidance related to finances and leveraging blockchain technologies infrastructure. Best practices could include defining blockchain benefits, use cases, contractual language development of a blockchain innovation, and or center of excellence and education or curriculum development. The legislature should direct the Department of Information Resources to develop a decision model to assist agencies in deciding if blockchain technology is appropriate for infrastructure consideration. Using a decision model to assist the use case selection process will save time and focus efforts on use cases that provide the greatest value to the organization. And the legislature should consider establishing an innovation center within DIR or an independent organization as a private-public partnership. Official record-keeping systems. Texas should encourage counties to consider piloting the integration of blockchain technology in the existing land registry system and solicit an RFX, request for proposal, or a request for offer, RFO, etc., on the use of blockchain technology to support storage of real property records. We're talking about a state utilizing basically smart contracts to store property records. Amazing. To the extent that blockchain technology may lower costs and create efficiencies in a real estate transactions and title research, Texas should encourage private actors such as title insurers to adopt new technologies. Texas should consider whether to use a blockchain-based data management system for UCC financing statements, and in connection with adopting such a system, should consider the elimination of paper filings. So the Texas Workgroup on Blockchain Matters charges. The 87th Texas Legislature passed House Bill 1576, creating a work group on blockchain matters concerning Texas. The bill, authored by the state representative Tan Parker, directed the work group to develop a master plan for the expansion of blockchain industry in this state and recommend policies and state investments in connection with the blockchain technology, and required a report including the master plan and any findings or recommendations be submitted to the legislature. This report is submitted in compliance with the requirements of HB 1576. So the bill was to go through and have a report. This is the report and the suggestions. That means that not any of these suggestions are written in law right now. Currently, that is my understanding. It would go through a bunch of other processes before it would go there. But it does look like, in my humble opinion, that all of these suggestions are on point. Surprisingly, directly on point. I don't think I found anything I disagree with. And usually, you guys know I can find something to disagree with. I do not see it here. It's right on par with what I would say lines up fundamentally with the principles of cryptocurrency as put forth, in the Bitcoin white paper and so on. I mean, even to the point to where I believe in here, they do talk about Satoshi Nakamoto. They talk about the white paper, what it means, and the importance of cryptographic hashes. So they address all of that, right? And it's simply insane. In the words of WCCF Tech, it's simply insane. Hey, hobbyists, welcome to the stream. Make sure you guys go subscribe to the Hobbyist Miner as well. Good to see you in chat. Now, Congress's FTX problem. 1 in 3 members got cash from crypto exchange bosses. So now we go and we talk about corruption as it pertains to centralized entities participating within crypto and U.S. lawmakers. And this is so, we have a little bit of bullish, we have a little bit of FUD, we got to go back and forth, right? The session began with 196 U.S. lawmakers who took direct contributions from Sam Bankman-Fried and other former FTX executives, and many of them are still trying to get rid of it. More than 1 in 3 of the 535 senators and representatives in the U.S. Congress showed up to the new session with FTX baggage, having received campaign support from one of the senior executives of the fraud-ridden crypto giant. CoinDesk has identified 196 members of the new Congress, many of whom were sworn in last week, who took cash from SBF or other senior executives at FTX, a crypto exchange that filed for bankruptcy in Delaware in November after CoinDesk revealed unusually close ties between FTX and Alameda Research, an affiliated hedge fund. The names in Congress range from the heights of both chambers, including new Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, of course, and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, of course, down to a list of recipients new to high-level politics. After the lawmakers received the money, it became clear, according to the work of journalists, the criminal charges and admissions of guilt from FTX insiders, that the funds sprang from the colossal financial swindle. CoinDesk reached out to all 196 lawmakers to ask what they would do with the money. Most of the politicians who responded said they handed it over to their charities to remove the taint of contributions from executives such as former FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried, whose federal fraud charges also include an accusation that he violated campaign finance laws. Here's the problem. You get to choose whoever, you can't, in this situation, the response should be, I'm going to return it to the users of the platform that were screwed out of their money. Not I chose some charity that, I'm personally tied with that I probably get a benefit for donating to. No, return it to the users. This is absolutely ridiculous that is I've washed my hands of this. I donated to a charity. No. You don't steal from the poor and then give to a charity of your choosing, right? You don't accept donations from somebody who stole from the poor and then give it to a charity of your choosing. You give it back to the poor. It's just ridiculous. It's pretty funny, though. I mean, par for the course, right? Others have revealed that they had conversations with the U.S. Department of Justice about setting aside the money until it can be dropped into a fund to compensate FTX victims. That one sounds better. So these guys, whoever these guys, I want the list of these guys versus the list of these guys, right? That's what I want. I want a list. All right. So Representative Lou Corrier, Democrat, California, was among dozens of current or incoming members of Congress who took FTX contributions, in this case, the full limit of $2,900 directly from Bankman-Fried. I don't know the gentleman, never talked to him, he told CoinDesk, but said he intended to donate that same amount to his alma mater, California State University, Fullerton, to support their Dreamer Education Fund. No, see, I'm against that. Don't give it to the University of California. Give it to the University of Hard Knocks, bro. They got screwed by FTX. Charitable contributions. Of the 53 campaigns that responded on record, 64% decided to forward the donated amounts to nonprofit causes. Incoming Representative Greg Casar, Democrat, Texas, planned to forward contributions from FTX executive from his brother, Sam Bankman-Fried's brother, to the advocacy group of Fight Corporate Monopolies. While Representative Ronnie Jackson, Republican of Texas, said he would give to a crisis pregnancy center. No! Both y'all, shame for shame. Support your political pundits and get votes out of what was donated to you that was stolen in the first place, and putting towards your political perspective so that you get votes. No. Oh my gosh. However, the campaign's channeling tainted money to favored charities may not escape the reach of FTX's bankruptcy case. And even the organizations they give could be roped in, as they should. As they should. Making a payment or donation to a third party, including a charity, in the amount of any payment received from a FTX contributor does not prevent the FTX debtors from seeking recovery. Oh, for sure. FTX warned in a December statement. The company is now controlled by CEO John Ray III, whose primary job is to recover money from the company's fleeced creditors, though it isn't yet clear whether political donations nominally made directly from individuals' personal accounts will be subject to clawbacks. The company said it's inviting any recipients of donations from FTX executives to return the money soon. According to the statement, if the money was stolen, it was never theirs to give. Several of the campaigns told CoinDesk that they're in touch with the bankruptcy team or government authorities and are trying to determine how to give the money back. We received guidance from the Department of Justice that dollars received from FTX executives should be set aside for when a victims' compensation fund is created in the future, said Chris Carroll, campaign manager for Representative Rosa DeLauro, Democrat of Connecticut, whose campaign accepted contribution from Nishad Singh, one of the executives who contributed millions last year. The current FTX means chaos at FTX means giving the money back is easier said than done. Of the recipients who responded to CoinDesk inquiries, 38% said they were holding the money and waiting for guidance on how to give it back. Probably the best way to handle it. Only 5 politicians said they had already successfully returned the money. And they have a list here, so I highly recommend going over and taking a look at it. This is, a bipartisan issue, meaning members from both sides are corrupt within this to a certain extent. How they respond to this, what their response is, I think is the most important part, right? Returned or plan to return is what I would lean towards being best, while donated, obviously, I think would be worse, or no response, obviously, being a little bit worse than that. But go check it out, and, see if there's somebody you need that you voted for previously that you should maybe consider not voting for in the upcoming elections, right? If during FTX's bankruptcy process, the money its executives gave to campaigns as well as other causes is deemed fraudulent conveyances, the recipients have to give it back to FTX's estate. Anthony Sabino, a bankruptcy expert and a professor of law at St. John's University, told CoinDesk that the courts will work out whether this cash is tied to fraud, though clawing it back to FTX creditors could take years. Victims of Bernie Madoff are still receiving payments 14 years after his arrest. According to Sabino, the game of hot potato that campaigns play by giving donations to charity is a political move that doesn't magically absolve them from their responsibility to pay back the money. The law does not care if you gave it to Mother Teresa, he said. And if the money has already been spent, then tough luck. If you no longer have the money, too bad, you're still liable and you may go bankrupt yourself. So, though the charity hot potato was the most common response CoinDesk received from politicians, another sizable group of respondents said they were working on giving the money back, and it covers that, right? So, keeping mum, of the 196 members of Congress who accepted campaign contributions from FTX's former executives, 73% didn't respond to CoinDesk's request for comment. And so it's unclear what they're going to do with the money. Some of Congress's most crypto-friendly members, including Representative Tom Emmer, Republican of Minnesota, who received $8,700 from Salim and Zach Dexter, the CEO of FTX subsidiary Ledger X, have kept mum on the subject. Emmer has largely treated the FTX crash like a blip, continuing his rhetorical crusade on behalf of the industry in speeches and appearances since the exchange filed for bankruptcy in November. Emmer, who is co-chairman of the Congressional Blockchain Congress, has argued that the FTX collapse was a failure of character, not of crypto, but he added that the industry will keep growing. You do not get growth without taking risk, he told a cryptocurrency industry crowd in Washington, D.C. I would agree with him on that, right? But he does have to resolve this. This isn't, he has to say, It's a failure of character. Oh, let me show character here and resolve this $8,700. You don't get to just say, hey, it's an error of character, and then not actually back that up with an action yourself in response to that, right? That's just my humble opinion, right? How that needs to be handled. Like, I agree with him, but he needs to show that he means what he says. Other members of the caucus who received money from FTX executives, like Josh Gothamir, Democrat of New Jersey, and David Schweitzer, something like that, almost got it, Republican of Arizona, another of the co-chairs, seemed eager to distance themselves from their donors, telling CoinDesk the money has already been donated to charity or returned to FTX. So a firehouse of money. Most of the attention on Bankman-Fried's campaign has focused on the firehouse of indirect money he aimed at congressional Democrats in the primary elections last year through his own and other political action committees. He spent $40 million in the past 2 years, donations that are now under scrutiny by the FTX bankruptcy team and federal prosecutors, though the cash was largely spent on such things as television advertisements and political mailers. Thad Wilson, a bankruptcy attorney at the law firm King and Spalding, said that vendors could find the FTX estate knocking at their doors, taking back money that, for instance, paid television or radio stations to air political advertisements. Wilson said the clawbacks in previous fraud cases, such as the Alan Stanford Ponzi scheme, set a legal precedent. In that case, several campaigns and politicians were hit with clawback claims, including former President Barack Obama, who had given the money to charity and balked at returning it. Even the Golf Channel, which had allegedly been paid with money from the scheme, was sued for fraudulent transfers. The drama over FTX cash could get even messier than dragging the Golf Channel through the courts. Bankman-Fried's family, including brother Gabe, was highly involved in his political engagement, and Wilson said it's not uncommon for litigation to extend to family members, particularly where the size of the donations were significant. I gotta move this mic down. It keeps bouncing the air onto my nose and making it itch. Hold on. While Bankman-Fried and his colleagues made a staggering number of highly visible direct donations, these actual dollar amounts represent a sliver of their political investment. The type of PACs they favored, which don't carry the same limits for the amount of cash individuals can shovel in, focus on what are known as independent expenditures, meaning political help that's not officially tied to campaigns. The dollars that flow through such PACs can be marked or also be dark money, coming from unnamed donors through nonprofit intermediaries, something like the crypto mixer services of political spending. The 30-year-old disgraced CEO said after his resignation that he had taken public credit for the Democratic spending, but he had also funneled money to Republicans. That remark seemed to have been echoed in his criminal proceedings, in which he was charged with conspiracy to defraud the U.S. and commit campaign finance violations, specifically accused of propping up wealthy co-conspirators as straw donors contributed to funds that he was secretly supplying. He's like, yes, I was trying to defraud the U.S. and commit campaign finance violations, but it was bipartisan. Okay. Look, bro, it was illegal, but it was bipartisan. Okay, dude. It's a terrible argument. It's like I got in trouble. I did something wrong, but a spokesman for Bankman-Fried declined to comment for the story. The bulk of the FTX spending on Republican candidates came from one of Bankman-Fried's underlings, Salim or whatever, who hasn't been accused of criminal involvement at press time. While Bankman-Fried's 2022 givings had stunned national politics by raising him to a one-time rank as fourth largest individual political donor, his spending had also lifted his name to 11th place, according to the OpenSecrets.org. He did not respond to a request for comment. He was a fixture in the Republican congressional primaries at the companion of Michelle Bond, a crypto advocate who ran as a Republican candidate for New York's 1st District. The two were even seen hobnobbing with Donald Trump Jr., the former president's son. But Salim was more influential as a donor, giving about $24 million to the party's candidate and causes. Another major contributor was Singh, one of the inner circle of the top FTX employees running the global business. He gave almost $10 million to Democratic candidates and progressive politicians, political action committees in the last cycle, according to the Federal Election Commission records. A lawyer representing Singh declined to comment. One other FTX donor was Mark Wetjen, a former commissioner and acting chairman of the U.S. Commodities Futures Trading Commission, who FTX hired in 2021 to head its policy work in Washington. The campaigns he gave to generally overlapped with Bankman-Fried donations, though Wetjen gave modest amounts and made fewer than 24 contributions. He also declined to comment. So the debates between personal money, right? All of the direct donations that politicians are scrambling to cleanse from their campaigns came from the executives' personal money. And so until a legal determination emerges that the funds really should be considered part of the company's bankruptcy, Sabino, the St. John's professor, said a clawback process does not affect donations Bankman-Fried made with his own money. Likewise, for other executives of FTX who donated their personal money, Sabino added. Bankman-Fried has been charged with campaign fraud, and prosecutors have alleged that he hid the true source of the funds he donated. But the accusations are scant in detail about what exactly is being alleged, and authorities haven't yet hinted at whether the same level of scrutiny will be applied to donations made by others, I think other executives, right? Some additional confusion could arise over the mess Bankman-Fried made in his direct giving, often donated repeatedly and well beyond federal limits for individual contributions, according to analysis of federal records. The maximum per election was capped at $2,900 during the cycle, which would amount to $5,800 for both a primary and general election. For instance, in this case, Senator Susan Collins, Republican of Maine, Bankman-Fried apparently contributed 6 times for a $17,400 total, according to federal records. A representative of the campaign said the amount over the limit was given back in September and October of 2021. And on one date in 2021, Bankman-Fried apparently contributed to Romney 6 times for $31,900 through the campaign, returned all but the legal limit of the $5,800. The FTX executives typically targeted candidates already in power who weren't likely to lose it, and they only sent the money to a couple dozen candidates who lost. Despite the abundance of conspiracy theories around Bankman-Fried's financial relationship with Democrats, he openly gave 10 to 10 Republican lawmakers, is what they're saying here. Some of his cash went to the prominent senators who weren't even running in last year's election, such as Dick Durbin, Romney, and John Boozman. So, the 37% of Congress who took FTX money will now be among lawmakers deciding how the U.S. should regulate cryptocurrencies and whether to allow the route Bankman-Fried lobbied for. This succession is expected to produce at least some initial attempts at laws governing crypto assets, and the damage wrought by FTX will be in the forefront of that debate. While Bankman-Fried sits in his parents' Stanford, California home wearing an ankle monitor and awaiting the developments of his criminal prosecution, a key figure, Senator Sherrod Brown, chairman of the Senate Banking Committee, has begun talks about the contours of a crypto bill. And despite loud crowing on social media that Bankman-Fried's arrest heralds the death of the controversial crypto regulation bill he supported, experts say that and other legislative efforts will continue. Though the discourse on Capitol Hill will remain hyper-aware of Bankman-Fried's recent Washington ties, the fact of his widespread relationships with lawmakers won't itself kill the work, said Jenny Lee, a partner at law firm Reed Smith's Financial Industry Group and former enforcement attorney at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. With the FTX bankruptcy, there is a public focus that is intense enough that we might have a chance at more thoughtful rulemaking, Lee said. We've been regulating these underlying issues for more than 100 years, and it will take some thoughtful analysis, reference back to the history and deep understanding of the technical issues on the part of regulators and lawmakers to apply it to crypto in a manner that does not do more harm than good. Many of the lawmakers who temporarily benefit from the sudden crypto riches of FTX's political novices are now issuing scathing comments about the recklessness of company officials and calling for tough industry oversight. So as crypto regulation progresses, the industry may face politicians who feel they have been burned before by digital asset advocates. So they're compromised, right? You can't have people that are making laws that are biased on the subject, which they clearly are now. Anyways, that's what's going on. I feel like we're going to have people making laws that are extremely biased in this position, right? And you end up in a position, like I said before, where it feels like the attack is on cryptocurrency as a whole and not on what is really the problem, which is, of course, that human problem. And that comes with centralization. So the further you move away from the fundamentals of cryptocurrency, in my humble opinion, the closer you move to some sort of corruption influenced by human interaction. And that's just human nature, right? That's not any person can be corrupted at that point. It's just the way it works. That's why the entire point is to try to decentralize it and make it transparent, right? And record a public ledger, is because if you can do that, then you can remove everything that gets done behind the curtain in centralization, right? Bitcoin miner 1Thash has sent almost all its Bitcoin to Binance. So you guys can see we hit $22,560 on Bitcoin. And the problem is now we see on-chain data sourced from CryptoQuant shows that 5,592 Bitcoin worth some 124 million that was transferred out of the miner's address in the past 3 days ended up in Binance. A Chinese miner has sent nearly 5,600 Bitcoin, about 124 million worth, to the Binance crypto exchange, blockchain data shows, in what might be interpreted as a move to sell the holdings. Bitcoin miner 1Thash has sent almost its entire bag of Bitcoin to Binance in a series of transactions earlier this week that were flagged by the analysis from firm CryptoQuant. Binance is the largest crypto exchange by daily trading volume. The conventional wisdom among crypto traders is that large Bitcoin inflows from miners to exchanges like Binance is a bearish signal that miners may be preparing to sell Bitcoin. The implication is that the recent crypto rally may have pushed the prices to a level that is too impossible to resist, especially with profit margins compressed in recent months by the crypto winter. And I do agree, right? I think that the miners that have survived are going to consider selling here. On January 17th and 19th, 1Thash transferred 2,396 and 3,336 Bitcoin respectively, according to CryptoQuant data. Julio Marino, a senior analyst at CryptoQuant, indicated that the 3,336 Bitcoin transferred on January 19th was sent directly to Binance, while 94% of the 2,396 Bitcoin transferred on January 17th sat in 3 different wallets before landing in Binance. The transfers on the 2 days were the highest outflows in CryptoQuant's tracking history of 1Thash, which started in July of 2020, 2.5 years ago. 1Thash's outflows cut the miners' holdings to zero, while the Bitcoin reserve balance for all miners dropped to its lowest level in a year at $837 million, data from CryptoQuant shows. 1Thash's Bitcoin outflows to Binance came as Bitcoin, the number one cryptocurrency by market capitalization, climbed past 22,000. 1Thash is a retired miner, added Marino, because the pool had only mined 2 blocks in the past 30 days. Moreover, in the past 6 months, 1Thash had mined only 13 blocks. The bulk of 1Thash's mining activity took place between September of 2019 and June of 2021. During that time, 1Thash mined over 4,900 blocks and 99% of its block count. So they're probably significantly in the green if they've been holding on to that for a long time. And 22,000 is probably a pretty tempting price for them to sell at, right? The thing is that will add selling pressure to Bitcoin. So just keep an eye on that, right? I think that that's fair to say. I wanted to bring that up and show you guys. Now, let's get into a little bit of hardware news real quick, just because I want to warn you guys about these GPUs they're about to release. And then we're going to get into miner releases, and we are going to be pushing back the after stream because it does look like we're going over today. A lot more news to cover than we typically do have, because we do have 3 new miner releases to cover today too, as well as a new GPU coming from NVIDIA, which is the 4060 Ti. Now, while it says it has 3070 performance for under $500, keep in mind that is not indicative of mining performance, but GPU gaming performance. And we can confirm this, of course, by the fact that it is only going to have a 128-bit bus, which is much smaller than the 256-bit bus, which is on the 3070. So if you were hoping for mining performance of a 3070 for a 4060 Ti, I wouldn't bet on it, other than, of course, the possibility for core intensive algorithms that don't use any memory, things like Radiant, things like Caspa and so on. But keep in mind that for those, really, they've been taken over already by FPGAs. So the likelihood of that actually competing is very low as well. I don't think from a mining perspective, I would be enticed to touch this with a 10-foot pole. In fact, like the 6700 XT, which is much cheaper, has a 192-bit bus, right, as they point out here, and has obviously been very good for mining recently. You have the RTX 3060, which also has a 192-bit bus. You have the 256-bit bus that was on the 3060 Ti. So we're definitely getting a pretty big cut down on memory bandwidth. And that does mean, from a mining perspective, wait until, it gets in hands and you see the numbers. More than likely, they're not going to look too good. But that's just what I'm thinking. Now, 3 days ago, we had a new miner release from Team Black Miner, right? And here is the support. They added support for VTC plus ETC plus ZIL. Pretty crazy. So you can mine 3 coins at once, 6 gigabytes or more of GPU memory needed. They removed the rejects during ZIL switch, and they removed rejects for vert hash. They fixed the program didn't exit the auto tune mode debug, and they reduced the GPU memory usage. So if you want to check out Team Black Miner version 1.80, this is an interesting combination that I haven't seen. I don't know that people are starting to get pretty bullish on ZIL, but not for that reason, not for this particular dual mining reason. We're going to talk about it though here in just a second. Also, 2 days ago, SRB Miner released version 2.02. So, improved mining performance on SHA 512-256D Radiant for AMD RDNA and RDNA 2 GPUs and NVIDIA Ampere GPUs. They improved mining performance on dual ET hash and ETC hash plus Radiant for AMD RDNA 2 GPUs. And so if you're really looking for some AMD stuff, you might want to be checking this out. They added experimental support for NVIDIA architectures older than Pascal. And they added GPU overclock parameters, GPU C offset, and GPU MOFSET for NVIDIA Linux only. And they fixed a bug with GPU clock and GPU M clock and GPU power limit, or P limit, is getting applied only in dual mining mode. And they removed obsolete algorithms, KOSA, Surcache, OX10, FRK hash, and Balloon Zentoshi, and some minor bug fixes. Finally, the big one that I think everybody's waiting for, and here it is, BZ Miner version 13.0.1, and what you got here is Nexa. Finally, NVIDIA only for now, joint effort with LOL, the LOL dev. There's a 3% dev fee on this, but it gets extremely interesting too. So faster startup times for larger rigs, showing difficulty change message, pool hash rate now resets on difficulty change, added share difficulty for Nexa only, and caching ZIL DAG completely. They disabled Caspa Community Fund by default, so you aren't paying into that. And they added the below settings, the ZIL test, all of the ZIL stuff here. What it was, I thought, and let me look at this real quick, it's over on here. I'll show you. Just give me a second. Give me a second. It's over here. This is the exciting part. believe I have the tweet here. Boom. Yeah. Coming from Hivon, which, by the way, we're wearing the Hivon shirt, but they sent me a little Christmas package. So thanks to Hivon for that. Just full transparency. It didn't come with any money. I don't know what that's about, but, you know, it is what it is. But they have essentially Nexa plus ZIL dual mining. Now, of course, the way ZIL works is not quite like that. You know, it'll mine Nexa for a little bit, and it'll pop over. But they have the custom sheet. It said, try both. Are you for Nexa or Zilliqa? Try both with the newest release of BZ Miner version 13.0.1 and mine Nexa, which has been one of the most profitable coins in the last few weeks. Even better news, you can dual mine Nexa with Zilliqa for even better profits. So there you go. Boom. All right. What to mine? RTX 3090 on what to mine at 10 cents a kilowatt hour is still showing nothing profitable. Of course, Nexa is profitable, but we'll see how long that lasts. As far as I think Radiance on still showing here, it's Conceal showing it losing only 10 cents a day. And I thought, I'm not finding, oh, here's Radiant. Yeah, Radiant's break even, but of course you can tune those in to use less power. So Radiant's probably profitable right now. And there are some interesting things you could do, of course, with dual mining Radiant and such on SRB miner with RDNA 2 GPUs. So if you were looking for something there, there's that as potential. Maybe play with that a little bit. Other than that, I think kaspa was still kind of losing 10 cents a day. If you clock it in, I think you can get to like 768 at like 120 or something like that. What was it? It's been a while. I think it was 120, which would put it at where'd you go, buddy? Oh, it's going to make less, right? So it'll be further down. Yeah, which puts it at 3 cents a day profitable or whatever. Not much, but it is there. Now, Asic miner profitability. Antminer KA3 is still showing in first, but it keeps getting delayed. Most of the people within the Asic mining industry, the sales guys, reps, and so on that I've talked to say this is pretty much feeling like it's delayed indefinitely. I don't know, though. There were stuff being listed, but I wouldn't expect that to come out anytime soon. So really, in first place, we have the Antminer L7. You know, doing that merge mining with Doge and Litecoin, etc. And then in second place, you got the iPolo G1. Actually, pretty good for how cheap they were. That is nice hash, though. So I'm not sure I actually think that this is accurate. But let me know if you guys have tested it. More accurate would probably be the Antminer D7 doing $9.23 a day on F2 pool for Dash. The iPolo V1 doing $6.12 a day on Easel. So there you go as far as that's concerned. Scrolling down from there, taking a look at the S19 Pro. Are we looking at profitable on anything at 10 cents a kilowatt hour? And yes, we are. Bitcoin is profitable at this price on the S19 Pro. It's been quite a while since it's been profitable. So the pump has made Bitcoin mining profitable again, albeit by a little bit, right? You're still going to be more profitable mining something like Digibyte, you know, or even Bitcoin Trash down here. Well, no, I guess Ant Pool Bitcoin's beating it out. So technically Digibyte's more profitable. If you do look at, I want to show you guys some bullish movements here on the mining side. We had Ravencoin pop into the top 100. And on top of that, it shows at 14% up in the past 24 hours and 19% in the past 7 days. Pretty cool to see Ravencoin in the top 100 and have a nice pump. We also had another one coming down here. Zilliqa has popped into the top 100 too. It's up 9% over the past 7 days and over the past 24 hours and 7.79% over the past 7 days. So some pretty good good options on smaller coins that have now hit that top 100 that are looking pretty awesome. So, and have had some good pumps. So there you go. Kaspa, I gotta move. My node's not working, but there was that. Also, I want to talk to you guys about locals. I've been working on like a Linux workshop here. We basically are doing articles over here. So go check out sonovatech.locals.com if you want to start learning Linux and following along. These are the written articles. Just so I'm already doing a lot of Linux studying right now, brushing up on it. And I figured that it would be cool to kind of do a guide for you guys. And we'll be doing some video guides as well, but these are already up. We'll be working on probably part 2 this weekend. And I believe, let me double check here. What are we covering? I have a list. So you go to docs. So our outline puts us into, show you guys here. I think this week we're going to talk about accessing the Ubuntu server. So we're going to be talking about SSH access. I'll probably I'll see if I can install an OSX guy or an OSX VM. I don't know if I can. We'll see tomorrow. And then we'll cover using PuTTY, some of your other options and stuff like that. And then we'll be talking probably at the same time. We'll be covering both of these, right? We'll be talking about access and first login best practices. So we'll be talking about that this week within the articles on Linux Workshop Part 2. Once we get all the articles built out and stuff, I'll start doing the videos. So hopefully that'll help you guys out. And, you know, I just want everybody to learn with me as I learn whatever I'm learning. I'm kind of knee deep in that. I'm kind of like way past that, but I also want to do all the basic stuff so that it's easier to pass all the certifications essentially. So it helps me kind of study at the same time, if that makes sense. Because it's like a lot of brain dump stuff I got to study for right now. And yeah, there was I didn't do a video on it, but Mark from Coastal Crypto does bring up, and I do have that. That was right before the show. Kaspa has their mobile wallet now. I have not tested this out, but Kaspa's first mobile wallet, Caspium, has released. I think right now it's only on Android, and you would have to do a side load of the APK. And then there will be hopefully an iOS test flight coming soon. So if you have an Android device and you want to go test it out, feel free to do that. Of course, with anything like this, you're side loading stuff. There are security concerns. You know, do I trust by and large that the Kaspa developers have your best interest in mind? Yes, I do. At the same time, I can't condone downloading this without saying, huge warning. There is, a ton of security risk potential here. So preferably I would keep it off of, a device that you utilize on a daily basis. So that's kind of what I'm looking at as far as that's concerned, and my 2 thoughts on that. Other than that, Bitcoin's still kind of sitting right around that 22,000, and Ethereum right at that 16,052. We're going to get into questions and answers over on sonofatech.locals.com, and then we'll be playing some Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. You can check out the link down in the description below. I will also be sharing it with you guys right here. And I want to thank each and every one of you that continue to support the channel and watch. I appreciate it very much. This is what I do love to do. I do love cryptocurrency and talking about it, and I'm going to continue to do so. So, you know, any of the support that you can give and continue to give, I appreciate. And I hope to see you guys back in your office chairs or watching in bed on your couch or whatever you're doing, watching on the big screen. I've seen some pictures. Thank you guys for all of that. Continue to share out the content, and you know, we're going to get through this bear market and we're going to see how it goes. If you guys have any questions though, come check it out over on Locals, or if you prefer, you can also check it out on Rumble. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next Tuesday.